The Viking Age did not begin with chaos, but with calculated ambition, shaped by harsh northern realities. Scandinavia's rugged landscape offered limited farmland, forcing communities to look outward for survival. Long winters and scarce resources demanded cooperation, endurance, and constant readiness for hardship. Power in Viking society rested not only on strength, but on reputation carefully earned and defended. Honor became currency, shaping alliances, feuds, and decisions that determined life or death. Chieftains rose through loyalty and proven success, binding followers through shared risk and reward. Leadership required generosity, as wealth distributed secured allegiance and reinforced authority. Raiding emerged not as random violence, but as strategic expansion driven by opportunity. Ships became instruments of power, enabling swift movement across rivers, seas, and foreign shores. The longship represented innovation, blending speed, flexibility, and tactical advantage. Communities invested heavily in maritime skill, knowing mobility meant influence. Exploration expanded trade networks long before it spread terror. Markets connected Scandinavia to distant civilizations across Europe and beyond. Silver, furs, and crafted goods flowed through emerging trade routes. Economic ambition reinforced political authority at home. Warriors sought glory, but leaders sought sustainable advantage. Controlled aggression strengthened status without destabilizing internal order. Law assemblies, known as things, mediated disputes and preserved fragile unity. Justice depended on consensus, balancing vengeance with communal stability. Even in violence, Vikings valued structure and negotiated settlement. Blood feuds were regulated to prevent endless cycles of destruction. Religion reinforced hierarchy, linking earthly power to divine favor. Odin and Thor symbolized courage, sacrifice, and relentless strength. Belief systems shaped identity and justified expansion abroad. The Viking world blended honor, law, faith, and ambition into a disciplined culture of controlled chaos. As raids intensified, Viking leaders transformed from local chiefs into regional power brokers. Success abroad elevated reputations at home, strengthening fragile internal hierarchies. Wealth from England and Francia reinforced loyalty through shared spoils. But expansion demanded coordination beyond traditional clan structures. Temporary alliances evolved into more centralized forms of authority. Some leaders consolidated territories, laying foundations for emerging kingdoms. Controlled violence became a political tool rather than mere survival instinct. Strategic settlements replaced simple raids in fertile foreign lands. The Danelaw in England revealed calculated governance, not reckless destruction. Vikings adapted quickly to local customs when stability served their interests. Conversion to Christianity was often pragmatic rather than purely spiritual. Religious flexibility demonstrated political intelligence rather than weakness. Trade cities like Hedeby flourished as multicultural hubs of exchange. Urban growth required regulation, protection, and administrative structure. Law codes expanded to manage increasingly complex societies. Kings relied on loyal retainers to enforce authority across distances. Naval power projected dominance while protecting trade networks. Control of waterways equaled control of commerce and influence. Internal rivalries persisted, threatening unity at critical moments. Competition among elites sometimes undermined collective security. Foreign powers learned to negotiate rather than merely resist. Tribute payments revealed Viking leverage over established kingdoms. However, reliance on raiding exposed vulnerability to changing defenses. Fortified towns and standing armies limited surprise advantage. The Viking system now faced a choice between adaptation and decline. As European kingdoms strengthened, Viking expansion slowed under mounting resistance. Raiding became riskier as coastal defenses improved across Britain and Francia. Former targets organized coordinated responses to repeated northern incursions. Some Viking leaders shifted focus from plunder to permanent territorial rule. Settlement demanded taxation systems rather than opportunistic violence. Administration replaced improvisation in newly conquered lands. Christian monarchies pressured pagan leaders to convert or face isolation. Baptism often secured alliances and legitimacy in foreign courts. Over time, Scandinavian rulers embraced kingship modeled on continental systems. Central authority expanded, reducing the independence of local chieftains. This consolidation strengthened kingdoms but weakened traditional freedoms. Warrior culture adapted, yet lost some of its earlier fluidity. Standing armies replaced seasonal warbands in organized realms. Royal courts institutionalized power that once depended on charisma. Trade networks integrated Scandinavia deeper into European economies. Economic growth encouraged stability over constant outward aggression. Generations raised in settlements valued security more than raiding glory. Controlled chaos gradually transformed into structured monarchy. Internal disputes now revolved around succession rather than plunder. Elite rivalries threatened fragile political unification. Norway, Denmark, and Sweden competed for dominance in the north. External invasions, including Norman expansions, altered regional balance. Former Vikings in Normandy adopted feudal structures successfully. Ironically, adaptation abroad proved easier than reform at home. The Viking Age neared transformation as its original model lost advantage. As Scandinavian kingdoms centralized power, independent warlords gradually lost authority. Royal courts replaced clan-based leadership that once defined regional influence. Christian conversion reshaped cultural identity and introduced new institutional order. Church structures expanded literacy, law, and moral expectations across society. Kings used faith to legitimize authority and unify fragmented territories. Pagan rituals declined as Christianity altered spiritual and political life. Violence became regulated under emerging monarchies and formalized legal codes. Raiding diminished as trade networks integrated Scandinavia into Europe. Urban centers developed, encouraging commerce over seaborne plunder. Agricultural expansion supported stable populations and permanent settlement. Longships still sailed, but fewer expeditions sought distant conquest. Younger generations inherited kingdoms rather than restless frontiers. Ambition shifted toward governance instead of personal glory in battle. Written laws replaced reputation-based justice once enforced by honor. Political stability increased as centralized rule strengthened institutions. Former raiders became royal officers defending territorial boundaries. Economic systems matured beyond opportunistic maritime expansion. Identity evolved from warrior bands into organized national communities. Consolidation reduced the volatility that once defined Viking power. Military strength remained, but operated within structured state control. Innovation turned from shipbuilding toward administration and taxation. Regional rivalries were absorbed into broader political frameworks. The era of exploration gave way to consolidation and permanence. Viking culture transformed rather than disappearing entirely. The Viking Age ended not in collapse, but in structural evolution. The Viking Age did not collapse in chaos, but matured into structured kingdoms. What began as survival-driven expansion ended in centralized political authority. Power, once earned by daring voyages, became defined by inherited legitimacy. Honor shifted from battlefield reputation to loyalty. Within emerging states, controlled chaos gave way to regulated law and organized governance. Yet, the spirit of independence remained embedded in Northern identity. Viking resilience was forged through hardship, but refined through adaptation. Their story reveals that strength without structure rarely endures. Likewise, structure without flexibility risks stagnation over time. The balance between freedom and control shaped their rise and decline. Raiding built influence quickly, but governance preserved it longer. Fear once unified warrior bands against hostile shores. Later, Administration unified territories under enduring crowns. Innovation in ships opened the world beyond Scandinavia. Innovation in law secured stability within it. Cultural transformation proved as decisive as military conquest. Faith, trade, and diplomacy replaced constant warfare. Communities that once relied on plunder learned to rely on production. The Viking legacy survives in language, law, and political systems. Their expansion reshaped Europe's demographic and economic foundations. Yet their decline reminds us that no system resists change forever. Controlled chaos created opportunity, but demanded evolution to survive. Power built through force required adaptation to remain legitimate. Endurance depended not on dominance, but on reform and integration. The Viking Age stands as a lesson in strength, honor, and transformation. If you enjoy exploring history beyond the myths, consider subscribing for more documentaries like this. And as always, thank you for watching.